Ever wonder how a single piece of paper can protect millions of kids from deadly diseases? Well, today, that's exactly what we're going to deconstruct. We're diving into a landmark public health law from the Philippines, the one that made immunization mandatory for every child. So let's get right into how it works.
Right here, this single phrase pulled straight from the law, this is everything. It's the key to the whole philosophy. See, it's not about scrambling to react when an outbreak happens. No, it's about getting ahead of the curve, preventing diseases before they even start. It completely reframes public health as a proactive duty of the government, not just a reactive cleanup crew.
Okay, so here's our game plan. We'll start with the why, that proactive goal. Then we'll get into the specifics. What vaccines are on the list? Who's covered by this law? We'll look at the team effort it takes to pull this off, and finally, how it's all set up to work for the long haul.
All right, first up, the foundation. What's the core idea that gives this law its teeth? Well, it all comes down to making this an official, formal state policy.
Okay, now you really want to zoom in on these three words: comprehensive, mandatory, and sustainable. This is huge because it tells us this isn't just a friendly suggestion or some short-term campaign. Nope, the law creates a permanent, nationwide program. It's basically saying that immunization is a fundamental, non-negotiable responsibility of the state.
So, if it's mandatory, you're probably asking, what exactly are we getting vaccinated against? The law is super specific on this, so let's take a look.
So here's the starting lineup, and you'll notice these aren't just picked out of a hat. These represent some of the most serious, most common threats that children have faced for generations. By targeting these 8, the law is taking a direct shot at the biggest dangers right out of the gate. But what's really clever is that the list doesn't end here.
And this is a really smart piece of design. The law gives the Secretary of Health the power to add other vaccines to the list as needed. What does that mean? It means the law is future-proof. It can adapt to new diseases or new scientific breakthroughs without having to go back through a whole new legislative process. It keeps the law relevant for years and years to come.
Okay, so we've covered the what. Now, let's talk about the who, because the real power of a law like this is making sure it applies to everyone. So, who is protected by this, and when does it happen?
The first number you gotta remember is 5. That's right, 5. For children up to 5 years of age, these essential immunizations are totally free at any government hospital or health center. The whole point is to take money out of the equation. It removes that barrier, making access truly universal.
And the second number is 24. And this one is absolutely critical. The law gets incredibly specific here, mandating the hepatitis B vaccine within just 24 hours of birth. Think about that. It just underscores the urgency, the need to protect a newborn from the very first moments they enter the world.
But you might be thinking, what about kids who aren't born in a hospital? The law thought of that too. It makes it crystal clear that any licensed doctor, nurse, or midwife who helps with a birth, no matter where it is responsible for giving that first crucial vaccine. The goal is super simple. No child falls through the cracks.
Okay, so a law on paper is one thing, but making it happen in the real world, that's the challenge. So who are the people on the ground making sure every single child gets protected? It's not just one person, it's a whole network of professionals.
The process is actually a really clear, logical sequence. It all starts with education, informing parents-to-be during prenatal checkups. Then, of course, a qualified professional administers the vaccine. But it doesn't stop with one shot. The law makes sure there's a follow-through to complete the entire schedule laid out by the Department of Health.
And this is where you see it's a true team effort. It's not just on one doctor's shoulders. You've got this whole chain of responsibility. It begins with healthcare workers educating pregnant mothers. Then you have the DOH, government agencies, even NGOs all chipping in to get the word out. And behind the scenes, all these health workers are getting continuous training to stay sharp. Literally, everyone has a part to play.
All right, but a massive plan like this needs a rock-solid foundation, right? So for our last section, let's get into the nuts and bolts. How is this whole thing paid for, and how did it actually become law?
To make sure this program is sustainable, the law sets up a really smart 2-part funding plan. First, money is set aside for it directly in the Department of Health's annual budget. And second, it requires the National Health Insurance, which is PhilHealth, to include these services in its benefits package. This 2-pronged approach is what gives it real long-term stability.
And you know what? Things move fast. I mean really fast. The law passed Congress and got signed by the president in June of 2011. Then, the Department of Health had 90 days to iron out all the specific rules, and just 15 days after that, bam, it officially became law.
So let's wrap this all up. What are the big takeaways? At its core, this law flipped the script, making immunization a proactive and mandatory government policy. It targets at least 8 major diseases for all kids up to age 5, with a huge emphasis on that critical Hep B shot within 24 hours of birth. And maybe most importantly, it's built to last, with a team of people making it happen and a smart funding plan that uses both the national budget and health insurance.
And that really leaves us with one big final question to think about. When you see all these pieces clicking into place, the policy, the vaccines, the funding, the people, it really makes you stop and wonder, doesn't it? Just how much can one single, well-designed law change the health and the future of an entire generation?